Bro, listen, this time our MC has finished the game 19 times, and on the 20th play, he grinded for months on the beginner area before even starting the main quest line and maxed out the character to level 9,999. But the moment he clicked play, he actually got transported into the game. And unfortunately, not as the 9-9 character, but as the Demon King that is the enemy of the dude. Worst of all, not only did he lose his OP character from the get-go and got nerfed, but every single general demon of his faction wants to kill him because they know he got weak as hell. At least he has this 6-armed blonde T-Sundari to make him happy. But the question is, how can a nerfed Demon King survive an absurdly OP hero and the fury of all his subordinates? His answer? Farming. Now, I know that this solution sounds trash, but hear me out. He has played this Souls-like game 19 full times and knows every single detail there is to know. Also, the system gave the path. The happier your demon army becomes, the more you can use your Demon King power. In theory, it sounds like he's going to be a cool guy, but holy Jesus, this MC is the ultimate menace on Earth. What he does to this poor Asura dude is the most disrespectful thing I have ever witnessed in any manhwa. So without further ado, let's get it. My name is Jangxiol. What a cursed name. Just an ordinary student from Korea, or at least I used to be. Yesterday, I became the Demon King Kratos, the final boss of a game I was playing, right? Total cliche. The game's called Blood Paladin, and the goal is to awaken the hero who's asleep like a male version of Cinderella or something. But here's the problem. Right at that moment, a butler comes in and calls for Kratos. It's Zephyros, and he says the preparations for war are complete. Outside, there's a whole crowd of demons screaming. Azuret, the Blood Prince, level 5, 3, 4 is there too. Alongside him is Sergi, the Ice Monarch, and the Archduke of Shadows, Hartok, who's also the head butler. And of course, there's the classic musclehead Ball, level 539. Standing before all of them, Kratos calls out to everyone and tells the army to listen up. As the lord of all demonkind, he has something important to say. This war they're fighting is going to be put on hold because they need to focus on harvesting crops and raising livestock. The crowd of demons looks around kind of confused, and then they start freaking out, saying this is ridiculous. But then man, the Demon King gives them a death glare. Everyone goes dead silent. Obviously, there's a reason he doesn't want to start this war. Right then, a notification pops up. Someone is starting a new playthrough of the game for the 20th time. A guy known as Age Kimchi, level 9,999. And Kratos knows he's going to die at this guy's hands. That's when he explains, I graduated from the farming course at Korea University and became a rich farmer. I was one of the best, seriously, one of the top. The kid was so good, even the professors asked him to help write their thesis. That bald professor asks for help with another project. And when he goes to the fields, of course, people ask him to work too. The truth is, all this talent just turned him into the #1 slave. What kind of cursed life was that? He had all this skill, but in the end, everyone else took credit for everything he did. He screams that he wants to kill all those bastards and his dopamine levels are rock bottom. That's when he decided he needed a little hype in his life, right? And what better than a good old video game? He wanted something that would let him feel that thrill of achieving something he actually wanted. That's how he became the first person to finish this game 19 times. He's all worn out now, but says it was totally worth it, and yeah, he's really strong. So now he decides to do the 20th playthrough on Hell difficulty. First, he had to level everything up. And after grinding, the character's already maxed out with some gear that, well, looks kind of odd. But from the looks of it, must be totally OP. He's standing there wondering how many years have passed. Dude really stayed focused. The game asks if he wants to start, and he's like, of course, and clicks it without hesitation. But this time, the monitor starts glowing, and it feels like something's pulling him in. All of a sudden, his soul leaves his body and gets sucked into the TV. Something lights up in the middle of the sky. He's flying over a forest, wondering, dude, what is this? Okay, I need to chill. First off, I know this is my soul, so I probably won't die even if I fall. Look over there in the corner. It's the Tower of Life. No way. I've actually entered the world of Paladin. That's when he spots the tomb and heads over all excited, because he knows that's where Age Kimchi is. But as soon as he comes face to face with the blonde guy holding a staff, he's like, why does the character look so awful? Suddenly, his soul takes a sharp turn, man, and goes flying somewhere else. He's screaming in despair, saying anything but this. And that's how he ends up inside Kratos' body. He goes, I can't believe I lost my chance to be Age Kimchi just because I thought the outfit looked stupid. Meanwhile, Zephyros overhears some demons saying there's no way Kratos is as strong as he used to be. The vampire-looking guy says they should team up, cut off his head, and take the throne. But Hartok asks, and what if he isn't weaker? 4 of us could die messing around like that. Sergi replies that she'll only go along with it if Azuret's the first to jump in. Bull, on the other hand, is just starving and doesn't care about any of this. Then the guy speaks up. If I can prove that the Demon King really has gotten weaker, would you all have the guts to do it? And right away, everyone starts smiling, saying that if that's the case, then yeah, they're in. Zephyros overheard everything and said, "Hey, my dear Demon King, so the demons are getting together to take you out. They're saying you've gotten weaker and they're thinking about chopping off your head." Shaking all over, he thinks, "Man, if all four of them come at me, I'm definitely gonna die. But the problem is, if I look weak, I'll die too. What I will know, though, is what happened to aged Kimchi. Did you not possess him? Did he end up left behind as a corpse or something?" But right then, Zephyros tells him to take a look at a recording from the orb. It was captured at the tomb, where a blonde kid was slaughtering all the demons. The guy literally reaches in and rips out one of the creature's eyes and stares straight into the camera. Kratos instantly realizes whoever's in that body is definitely not normal. He can't leave the castle. If he surrenders, he'll look weak and the generals will kill him. But if he steps into the human world, he'll also be killed by that level 9999 monster. The poor guy starts crying, saying the whole reason he got into this game was to find a little happiness, not more problems. But then he stands up, determined, saying that first of all, he's going to take care of the food situation to calm everyone down. Zephyros asks where His Majesty is going, and he replies with an apology for not saying anything earlier. He's out looking for land to start a little farm. Zephyros gives him a weird look, and the Demon King's just as confused himself. Then Zephyros points out that he used to be arrogant and full of himself. So what's with the sudden apology? Kratos finds the whole thing strange. Zephyros was more like a background character in the story. He shows up once and gets killed by the hero. Still, for some reason, he was kind of popular. That's because when he died, he apologized to the Demon King for being weak. People thought it was amazing that someone could respect their lord that much. They kind of liked him for it. But now he's just being annoying, going on about how he's never seen a Demon King lose face this fast. Kratos tries to intimidate him, but Zephyros clearly doesn't care and tells him to just explain where this farmland is supposed to be. After all, if it's the land nearby, he should already know there's no way to grow anything there. Kratos responds, "I know this place is called the Land of Death, but with my current abilities, I can bring it back to life." He kneels down, scrapes the dirt with his hand, and eats it. My God. Zephyros immediately takes note, saying unfortunately the Demon King's mentally challenged and is eating dirt. Kratos tells him to stop writing, but he just replies that, well, it's part of his job. Especially considering the Lord seems mentally deteriorated at the moment, it's best to keep records. Kratos ignores him and spits out the dirt, realizing it has zero nutrients. Nitrogen is the basic element plants need to grow, and even though the atmosphere is 78% nitrogen, it only works if it's pulled from the soil. When humans figured that out, it marked the beginning of agricultural engineering. And Kratos knows that one way to make it happen is with lightning. When lightning strikes, it oxidizes the nitrogen in the soil. And guess what Kratos' main power is? Lightning. He slashes his hand and tries to activate the blood strike. But no, wait, that's actually what triggered when the hero died. He tells Zephyros to take a step back. Now for real, he cuts his hand, and man, it hurts like hell. He can't understand how that lunatic used this skill so casually every time. Then he feels something weird and looks behind him. His whole crew is just staring at him like he's weak. He jumps in fright from these bastards, and Zephyros says he's 100% sure he's gotten weaker. Kratos turns to him and asks if he's trying to kill him too. At that moment, he yells enough. The pain wasn't worse than dying. He activates the blood strike, but all that really happens is he stains the sun with his own blood, and it still hurts like hell. Then someone behind him calls out, "Lord Kratos, sir, are you feeling a little off today by any chance?" Right then, he realizes these bastards are going to kill him. Meanwhile, somewhere far off, aged Kimchi is out there. He has memories of his past lives and knows that more than 10 times he walked that same path. He used to carry something called the Summon of Duty, but now, whatever that was, it's vanished. And yet, he doesn't even know what he's supposed to live for anymore. He just stands there, lost in thought, while back with Kratos, the whole group is staring him down. Asura steps forward and asks if he's the great Demon King, the strongest of all demon lords. Kratos is freaking out. He knows this guy's insanely powerful, and right now he can't even manage to use a single skill. Asura, still staring, says, "This pressure, it's unreal. The fight hasn't even started yet, and the guy's already built up so much energy, his whole body's trembling. Still, he keeps going. So do you think you can take on all four of us?" 3 of them have already taken cover behind a tree. Kratos turns around and realizes he's completely alone in this. Everyone's just standing there, looking right at him, saying he should have figured out by now that it was hopeless. Now he's screwed because he's all on his own. He tries to say they're all demons, and they just go, "Of course we are." Out of nowhere, Zephyros pulls out a projector and says that according to demon law, fights like this are to the death. There's no backing out. Azurat, who was terrified just moments ago, decides to focus and tells himself not to be scared. The Demon King is weakened. Kratos, shaking all over, is stuck thinking, what does he do? What does he do? What does he do? He had just tested his strength, and considering how easily he pulled off that last move, he can't be that weak. But before he can finish thinking, Azurat charges at him, yelling that he's coming. Kratos remembers that this guy only really has 2 moves, a sideways slash or forward thrust. He thinks dodging will be impossible, but he ends up dodging anyway. A bit confused, he notices the guy still has the same habits. When his foot points forward, he always follows up with that direct attack. Kratos slips from the dodge and ends up sliding backward. Hartok comments that it's actually terrifying how easily he avoided that. If he had misjudged it, his arm would have been done for. Another attack, another dodge. Kratos starts to notice all the moves are just like in the game. The first time he ever faced this guy, he thought it was hopeless. He was fast, full of feints, always throwing in misdirection, and had a ton of attack variations. But after dying once, twice, 3 times, then 10, then 128 times, he started to get the hang of it. On his 19th full playthrough of the game, he even tried beating him without taking a single hit. And now in this real battle, yeah, he's already figured it out. There's no way this guy can land a single blow on him. The demons hiding nearby are all watching nervously as he rolls from side to side, grinning. They can see now that the Demon King hasn't lost his power. He's just toying with poor Asura without even striking back. Asura is fuming with rage, while Kratos realizes, I might not be able to beat this guy, but I'm not gonna die either. And the moment he understood that the rules of the game applied here, the system notified him that he had begun to grasp how everything worked in this world. Kratos instantly recognized it. It looked just like the pop-up window from the webtoon system. It congratulated him for dodging attacks purely through focus. As a reward, he gets something only playable characters could have. He unlocked the ability to select a target. Seeing the little green mark appear, he knew exactly what it meant. That was the indicator for using a special skill. Without hesitating even for a second, he slashes forward to activate the blood strike. And this time it works, zapping poor Asura with a burst of electricity while the other demons just stand there, jaws dropped. The guy collapses to his knees, totally shaking all over. Kratos, however, is stunned that Asura is still somehow alive and kicking. That's because this ability, in the game, it always caused instant death, so he figures he better hit him with another strike, just to make sure he really goes down this time. The demons around them gasp, whispering, oh my god, he's only using a fraction of his power to avoid killing Asura outright, just so he can keep making him suffer. Meanwhile, Kratos has no idea how to finish this guy off for good. The system chimes in, but all it says is that he's destroyed Azuret's clothes, and now the guy's completely naked. At least with that, he unlocks a new system feature. Armor removal has been activated. He opens his inventory and sees the gear he had equipped. It's all there, but he ignores it for now since priority number 1 is making Azuret disappear. The problem is, he's just not strong enough to finish him off. Then he comes up with an idea. Since Azuret is already down by the ground, he figures he can hit him with some lightning. The impact would send a shock straight through and create the nitrogen he needs in the soil. Honestly, the guy's kind of a genius. But the other demons, they're all hiding behind trees, shaking in fear. Kratos calls out to Sergei and tells her to tie Azuret up. Poor girl just wants to know why he's going this far to humiliate the guy. He's already been defeated. But no, Kratos straight up crucifies the kid and props him back up. With that, the perfect lightning rod is in place. Suddenly, Azuret opens his eyes and declares that the immortal has recovered. Now he's convinced the Demon King has gotten weaker, because he's still alive. But he doesn't get to talk much longer because another bolt of lightning shuts him up fast, while nitrogen starts working its way into the atmosphere. Kratos then orders Hartok to cover the entire area in a fog so thick that water will start to fall from the air. Hartok is surprised and thinks, wait, is he trying to soak the area so the lightning hurts even more? Honestly, that's a creative way to torture someone. I've learned something new today. The fog rolls in and tiny droplets begin falling on Azuret's body, just in time for another bloody lightning strike to hit. Kratos winces. The ability hurts like hell every time he has to scratch himself to activate it. Meanwhile, Zephyros is just watching everything along with the others, and they're all starting to get a little freaked out. But the protagonist, he's celebrating. The ground's going to be rich in nitrogen, and before long, the harvest will be bountiful. More lightning crashes, and you can see the bolts stretching out into the horizon. Later, he digs up some of the soil and sees that things are starting to improve. The only issue now is that the grains are too fine. They won't penetrate the soil. He needs to create space and add the perfect material. Obviously, manure. So right away, he orders everyone to bring in a big load of crap. The guys, already drenched in blood, are standing there wondering if he's really planning to dump poop on poor Azuret. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, aged Kimchi is walking along when he hears someone crying for help. He looks to the side, and ma'am, he's just found a Javier and a Lloyd. Walmart versions. That poor knockoff Lloyd says they were attacked by goblins and need help, but Kimchi just gives him a look that makes them both start shaking. The guy pleads with him to calm down, saying he's not suspicious at all. But that outfit? Yeah, super sketchy. When he notices that Temu Javier has a hurt leg, he throws him over his shoulder and tells Shopi Lloyd to lead the way. They literally introduce themselves as Riva, Javier spelled backwards, and Bloyd. You can guess the rest. Javier wants to know who the blonde kid is, and he answers that that's exactly what he's trying to figure out. Back at the Demon King's castle, Hartok is asking how they're supposed to collect a bunch of poop and where the heck they're going to get it from out of nowhere. Serpi says she has no clue, but the whole request is disgusting. Ball groans that it's over. He hasn't eaten in ages and women don't poop. Hartok immediately replies that's not the point here. Even if they could supplement, he's definitely not using his own. The plan? beat the crap out of some low-ranked demons until something comes out. Meanwhile, the poor guy's crouched in the middle of a pit, telling everyone to wait outside. He's not managing to do it. One of the soldiers reports to Hartok that it's been tough getting results. Hartok walks in and asks if the guy really can't go, and the demon explains he hasn't eaten in ages. This place is basically bankrupt. That's when Hartok grabs him by the neck and says he has a brilliant idea. He goes in for a slash, but Bale catches his arm and says, "If you cut open his stomach like that, how is he supposed to give us what we need?" Hartok releases the poor demon and admits it's surprisingly smart coming from Ball. So how about this? He feeds the guy his own flesh, and then they start producing what's needed? Bale just stares at him, aura fully activated, while the little demon curls up in the corner, trembling. The two are about to go at it when Kratos suddenly shows up and hits both of them with a bolt of lightning, warning them that humans and demons aren't the only creatures that defecate. Seated on the throne, he explains that there's no feces in this world that lacks nutritional value. They're going to make fertilizer. Zephyros asks what that even is. Kratos simply says it's something essential for improving the soil. Normally, it's made from wood scraps, plants, eggshells, chicken droppings, and all kinds of old junk. The problem is, they don't have much of anything right now. He asks for a map, and in seconds, it appears in his hands. Just like he expected, it's the exact same map from the game. He knows of a certain region teeming with a type of bird, though clearly these ones are pretty demonic. But the sheer number of them proves they can absorb a wide variety of nutrients from this land. Even better, since they live on peaks rising from the middle of the sea, it's the perfect place to find exactly what he needs. Zephyros instantly gets it and asks if he's planning to collect droppings from those demonic seagulls. He should know that place is called the Peak of No Return. There's nothing to hold on to, and if you fall, you're either crushed to death or dragged away by the waves. Kratos replies that he's already well aware. That area wasn't even meant to be accessible by players, but he managed it. And now here they are standing right in front of it. Everyone's wondering what the hell he's thinking this time. Countless people have tried to scale those cliffs, and obviously every one of them got swallowed up by the ocean. Kratos turns to them and says he's going to climb all the way up and throw down bags full of stuff, so they better be ready to catch. If this plan works, everyone's going to eat well. Baal looks around and remembers how thin everyone's gotten. Man, they're in bad shape. Thank the heavens the farmer Demon King finally showed up. Kratos recalls it was on his 30th playthrough that he finally decided to attempt climbing this place. After hundreds and hundreds of tries, he figured out the secret. He jumps as everyone watches and grabs onto the cliff. He knows he can pull it off because he knows how to exploit a certain glitch. His hand starts sinking into the stone and everyone's watching closely. Right then, Kratos opens his inventory and unequips everything. Suddenly, the whole crowd gets a full view of his bare butt. People start trembling in shock. He twists sideways and Serdi immediately turns away. He re-equips everything and clings to the wall like a lunatic. She peeks back with a crooked look. He unequips again, butt out. Then back to normal. Then butt. Then full body. Then butt again. He keeps switching body, butt, and suddenly, he's at the top like a total badass. A long time ago, he figured out this bug. If you unequip and re-equip gear mid-climb, you can slip through walls just a little. Right then, Bel says that if His Majesty promised to feed everyone, then he's got to do his part too. Zephyros tells him to wait, but the lunatic takes off running and throws himself at the wall to try and grab on. Kratos yells, asking what the hell he's doing. And of course, the guy slams right into the rock like an idiot and doesn't catch anything. Now it's the main character who has to grab Bel's hand. Again, while bugging through the wall, still naked. The problem is, Baal is the heaviest of them all. That makes Kratos stop and wonder, why is he even trying to save this guy? Baal is one of the 4 demons who literally want him dead. Even Baal himself looks confused, not understanding why he's being rescued. Then the protagonist remembers a friend who once said, "Bro, the professor's not gonna let me turn in my test. If I fail this, I'm done for. I'll become a slave, man. Please, can't you help me out? Just ask him to take a look at my grades. I'm sure if it's you, he'll listen. Every professor loves you." That guy was just a junior who followed him around all the time. And since the protagonist was the professor's #1 errand boy, maybe he really would have listened. But back then, he told the guy to handle it himself, because it wasn't his problem. He was worried that getting involved would mess with his standing with the professors, so he backed off. But now looking back, he realizes maybe he could help that guy. Just like right now, maybe he can help Baal if he pushes himself just a bit further. He tells himself he has to give it everything and go beyond his limits. Maybe then, the memory of that guy will at least end with a smile. He starts focusing all the strength in his body, and even though his arm gives out from the strain, he still manages to toss Baal upward. Of course, our boy gets hurt doing it, and the demon asks why he would go that far. He didn't have to. Kratos gets up and says, "Because this hurts less than abandoning a follower, and I'm not going to regret this." Out of nowhere, Baal starts crying, and Kratos thinks maybe that's how that student would have reacted too if he had helped him back then. All he can do now is say he's sorry. That's when the system appears and congratulates him for drawing out so much power from the Demon King's body without any help. As a result, he's earned the genuine admiration of one of the 4 great demons. From now on, every action he takes that makes demons happy will earn him points called HP or happy points. The happy points system has been unlocked. Kratos is completely thrown off by the idea of collecting happy points. What's he even supposed to do with that? Get a lollipop or something? But the system immediately responds, saying there's no way a game like this would hand out lollipops. Basically, every time one of his soldiers is happy and has a full belly, he earns a point. Those points can then be spent on attributes like stamina, defense, mental strength, and magic power. He needs to raise all of them to 100%. Then and only then will he have the full power that the real Kratos possesses. So he tries to buy 10% stamina, but it costs 50 happy points. On top of that, he can also use the points to upgrade his skills, but just improving one of them costs 250. Kratos thinks, this looks tough, but if I can get the farm going, maybe I'll be able to earn a lot. And besides, if I become stronger, my chances of survival will go up too. Plus, seeing people happy and full, yeah, that would feel amazing. His ego would be fed like crazy. Baal's standing there, watching him, thinking that this guy has the look of someone who's about to get killed. He shouldn't have been saved. And then suddenly, Kratos stretches out like one of those egg-laying birds and says, tell me he's about to dump it all down. It's for them to grab down below. Before the poor demons can react, he throws a rainbow arc of crap right in their faces. Kratos tells them to get ready and give it their all. A little while later, here we are surrounded by soil, eggshells, and a whole lot of poop. He turns to Sergi and tells her that since she has so many arms, she should chop all that stuff up. She immediately shouts back that she's the Ice Monarch. Her arms weren't made to play around with poop. He gives her a glare and calmly says that's fine. He's got another task she can handle in Ashurat's place. Unsurprisingly, she complies instantly. Kratos had jumped a bit when she yelled. These people from this world really are scary. And honestly, she's especially hard to deal with. But it was all fine. He was the Demon King. He could handle this with sheer willpower. He orders Hartok to flood the area with water, since he needed to moisten the soil. Hartok warns that if they get all that stuff wet, the smell is going to get even worse. One glare from Kratos and the guy is already airborne, doing exactly what he was told. Kratos then asks Baal if he's feeling better, and Baal replies that yeah, it's softer now, just like he said it would be. Step 3 was to gather some feathers and cover the whole thing. The problem was that doing just a small amount would take forever. To cover the entire area, there was no choice but to use all the demons. Something was bothering him, but he knew it had to be dealt with now. He would press forward using the authority granted to him as the ruler of this realm. Meanwhile, in the Demon King's city, a man is sitting in his home with his little daughter lying in bed. She calls out to him, asking if he could please feed off her. Whoa, what? That hit hard. The father begs her not to say something like that, but she just says she misses her mom. Apparently, another gluttonous demon had come along and was going to devour her, but the mother jumped in the way. She gave her daughter one last look and went straight into the demon's belly. The father simply responds that if his daughter is not here, what reason does he have to keep living? Just then, the Demon King shows up. The man jumps back in shock, yelling, asking what the hell he's doing there. Kratos replies that if he's got the energy to shout, then he's got energy to work, and orders the soldiers to take him. The man cries out for his daughter, saying he needs to take care of her, but it's too late. The Demon King just keeps walking, asking how many they've gathered so far. They've got 20. They need over 30. Looking back, the crying child, he remembers that she appeared in the game too, and just like always, he used to strike her down without hesitation. That memory makes him issue a new decree. From now on, demons are forbidden from eating other demons. Everyone would be working with Manhwa now. He walks off, determined, declaring that he is the tyrant lord, and to achieve his goals, sacrifices must be made. Under the scorching sun, the demons, already scrawny, suffer even more. One of them grumbles, "Man, we're out here on a farm, ridiculous. We've got no energy, and we're wasting the little we have on this." Another warns him to watch what he's saying, but the guy continues, "We're gonna die either way. And even if this soil becomes fertile, what exactly are we planting?" Right then, Kratos appears and tells him he'll explain if he's willing to follow. That day, back during the fight, he noticed a flower growing near a tree. It was something that could be cultivated. He shows it to the demon and says, "That right there, that's what we're going to plant." Baal and the rest of the team were already out gathering more of them. The demon says he knows what it is, but it's not edible. In fact, eating it usually causes intense stomach pain. Kratos, however, pulls one out of the ground and says there's nothing else to eat in this land. They're about to finish the experiment. Whether it works or not, they'll find out soon. The man asks what kind of experiment he's talking about, and Kratos says, "Right about now, your daughter should be starting to eat it." The guy bolts off in a panic, begging for help, desperate to know why they're doing this to an innocent child. He prays she hasn't eaten any of it. He bursts through the door, only to find Baal and his daughter standing there. And the little girl, she already ate it. She's plump now, saying she feels totally fine and completely full. The father is stunned, asking if she's really okay. She nods and says she actually ate the same thing yesterday. Baal and Zephyros gave it to her. That's when Kratos steps in and tells him to believe it. In a certain land, humans also managed to turn poisonous plants into something edible. It's actually something famous called a potato. I didn't even know that. Potatoes used to be poisonous. Flute, overwhelmed, thanks Kratos for being so kind to someone like her. And just like that, a part of the army feels genuinely happy to finally have something to eat. For the first time, Kratos earns 1 happy point. He stares at the point he just earned, catches the little girl's smile, and remembers how she used to be a monster in the game. The contrast between who she was and who she is now hits hard. Just because he's the demon lord doesn't mean he always has to be serious. So he flashes her a warm, beautiful smile and tells her to grow up strong and tall. The other demons immediately assume she's being fattened up to be eaten later. That sweet, wholesome expression on his face. Poor thing. That was all it took to confuse everyone. The next chapter opens by talking about a region called Chaven de Antor. This territory is divided into 5 zones, and Chaven is the farthest one out. The nights there were freezing cold, and the days were scorching hot. In a place where no crops could survive, even poisonous plants were considered food. Most people should have died trying, but of course, the humans never gave up. Back in the village, Flute's father kneels and tells the demon lord that everything's been laid out. That's when our guy orders Belle to stomp all over the place and crush every single potato. After that, they're going to leave the entire batch out to freeze overnight for 5 days. Freeze, thaw, over and over again. Slowly the batch would become edible, turning into potatoes that wouldn't cause stomach pain. Once that's done, it's time to call in Zephyros and get the squad ready to produce even more fertilizer. Snack prep time had officially begun. The line forms. Kratos steps up and announces, "All right, everyone. There's not much, so you're only allowed to take 2 at most." Zephyros finds that a bit odd. After all, they've got tons of soil. Why not just grow more potatoes? Kratos explains that what they have now is far from enough. Not only that, but it's going to take time to scale things up. The plan is to let people get used to the idea that these things are edible, then they'll multiply production by 1,000. Still, all the demons are just standing there staring at the food. They're not sure if it's really safe to eat. From the back, one man says his daughter already tried it and felt fine, but another one barks at him to stop being an idiot and just look at the demon king. That's not the face of someone handing out food to be generous. Even so, the guy steps forward with nothing but sheer courage, throws the potato in his mouth, chews it, and swallows. Then he starts crying and declares, "Long live the demon king." Once the first one ate and didn't die, obviously, everyone else followed. All they could think was, he really gave us something we could eat. And just like that, everyone raised a hand and shouted that Kratos was incredible. Seeing that kind of celebration, Kratos mutters that there's definitely something off about this cheer. They're going to have to change that chant real soon. Off to the side, Zephyros is thinking that maybe, just maybe, this lunatic really might end the starvation in this land. With so many full bellies, Kratos racks up 51 happy points. Finally, he can level up a bit. Looking over his attributes, he wonders which one would help him most right now. As he's deep in thought, Zephyros calls on the entire farm squad and orders them to return to the village to spread the word. Real, edible food can be grown in this land, and any demon who shows up to help will receive a voucher redeemable for potatoes. Kratos is honestly impressed that this clever little guy is actually being useful. And just like that, everyone's harvesting potatoes and planting more. Sergei's slicing up manure, Hartok's moistening the soil, and yep, poor Asura is still tied up out there. Kratos tells them to move him 10 steps to the left. That spot is perfect. They pin him to the ground and he gets hit with another lightning bolt. Kratos sighs and says it's rough having to do this every day just to generate enough nitrogen. But now that they've gathered a good amount, it's time to move on to the next step. The issue is, even with all the resources they have, it's still hard to cover everything. While he's mapping out the plan, Azuret's lying there begging, just begging, to be killed already. Kratos hits him with another blast without even flinching, still thinking to himself that what he really needs right now is some soldiers who can work non-stop without complaining. Maybe he has no choice but to wait for what's coming next. In an earlier conversation, he had asked Zephyros if he had really summoned the Star Masters. Zephyros said yes for now. He had asked them to halt all attacks and return so they could focus on farming. The problem? He still hadn't received any replies. Kratos wonders if those damn messengers just starved to death on the way. He really does need help. It's getting hard to spread manure all over the place by himself. The scene shifts to the Death Cliff, the first zone in the region. A demon reports that, according to the latest scouting, Lord Kratos had actually begun developing agriculture and producing edible food. The mustached one scoffs, saying Kratos must be doing all this because he's scared. That's because every time a demon dies, Saruthal, the father of the dead, gets stronger. Kratos must be trying to stop the war so neither of them gains any more power. Saruthal then asks if all the messengers sent to other regions have been dealt with. The demon confirms no one else knows that Kratos wants to call off the war. Saruthal nods, satisfied. He says it's better this way, every demon has to starve. Only then will they all become fuel for his power. Once he's gathered enough strength, he will become the true demon lord. Then he calls for Fikimir and commands him to destroy everything Kratos has built, especially anything related to farming. During one of the freezing nights, poor Asura is still tied to the cross. Ficamir walks past and thinks, good lord, this guy. That Lord Kratos is brutal. He really turned Azurat into a full-on corpse just to make an example out of him. But he reassures him, don't worry, Azurat. Sarvithal will avenge you. He summons a horde of spirits and orders them to destroy the land so that it can never be used again. The spirits rush in and find a huge pile of something covered up. One of them mentions that this is the famous manure Lord Kratos had been guarding so seriously. Ficamir grins, it's perfect. He tells them to toss it everywhere and ruin all of Kratos' plans. Azurat watches from the corner of his eye and remembers a conversation where Kratos had said that the manure had to be mixed into the soil and completely broken down. The problem was, they didn't have enough demons, everyone was too scrawny, so it was way too much work. And now here's Ficamir, celebrating and declaring that this is the end of Kratos. Meanwhile, Azurat thinks, wait a second, what kind of unpaid labor is this? A while later, one of the ghostly workers mutters, man, this land just never ends. It's way too wide. The others shout at him to stop slacking and keep hiding the manure. They need to bury it, spread it around, and make sure Kratos can't turn this into a farm. Another spirit sitting off to the side comments, Spirit hashtag 2718's working extra hard today. The spirit replies, I don't even know why, but I feel great right now. It's like that feeling of having done something productive. The one beside him just says, you really are an idiot, but then adds, whatever, today I want to be an idiot too. Let's destroy this entire place. While they're celebrating how effective they've been, the sun begins to rise and starts evaporating every last one of them. See, they're weak to sunlight, but honestly, dying after doing something productive didn't feel that bad to them. As their little souls drift upward, Ficamir is left behind crying, saying his children really did it. They were the best. Now they could all rest in peace. All he wants now is to see Kratos' face when he realizes what they've done. Nearby, in a storage house, all the potatoes they'd harvested were being stored. The problem now? Preparing them. Kratos explains that they're in a dormant state. Even if planted, they wouldn't grow. It's like a sleeping potato, he says, and you yanked it out by the hair. At that moment, the potato kind of fainted from the shock. He knows this dormant state will pass faster if he keeps the potatoes at around 4 degrees for 2 or 3 weeks and then moves them somewhere warm. The problem is, he was hoping to count on Surti for help, but she's been totally grossed out lately and clearly doesn't want to work. And Hartok doesn't look too thrilled with him either. At this point, Kratos is trying not to piss off either of them, since they still look like they're one step away from turning on him. He tried raising the temperature by making the crew do squats, but the poor demons had no energy left and just passed out. Thinking it over, he turns to Zephyros and says they're heading to the farms. He had to do whatever was in his power. At the very least, he could inject some nitrogen into the soil. But when they got there, the whole place was steaming. He stops in his tracks. What happened here? The soil was all mixed, the stench was thick in the air, and this place was perfect for planting. What kind of miracle is this? Watching from the shadows, Ficamir is panicking, total success. Just then, Baal shows up right behind him, grabs him by the ears, and announces he found this creep hiding out. Kratos immediately recognizes him. He's played the game enough to know this guy, one of the bosses from the Death Club. So he asks him, what the hell are you doing here? Ficamir tries to answer, but takes a punch to the face before he even gets a word out. Zephyros asks why he hit the guy before he even said anything. Krigos shrugs and says the dude was clearly hiding something, better to be efficient. Ficamir, now all bent out of shape, mutters that the Demon King really is cruel, only to get punched again and again. After a while, Kratos is exhausted from beating the guy without getting a single answer. So he opens his inventory, dumps all his points into stamina, and gets right back to punching. Eventually, Ficamir cracks and confesses that he was ordered to destroy the farm. Now they know it was Saruthal who made sure reinforcements never showed up. Kratos understands. The reason is obvious. That guy gets stronger every time a demon dies. Zephyros tells him that if he manages to take Saruthal down, everyone will see it as a warning. But Kratos doesn't care about that. He just wants to live in peace and focus on his farm. The two of them say in unison that the issue with killing Saruthal is that once you do, he turns into a ghost. It becomes nearly impossible to land a hit. On top of that, his map is huge, filled with high ground and hard-to-reach areas. Still, Kratos knows one thing: if the pest is hiding in the nest, then you destroy the whole nest. The scene cuts to Flute, who's watching Ashurat, still tied up, still stuck there. Like, when are they actually going to let this guy go? He turns to her and asks what she's staring at. All sweet and innocent, she says it's thanks to his sacrifice that they now have food, and she thanks him. But he snaps at her, yelling that she should stop humiliating the great Ashurat. He warns her that once he's free, she'll be the first one to die. He's boiling with rage, thinking that the second he breaks free, he'll take down that damn Kratos himself. That's when he hears Kratos' voice and looks to the side. Someone is playing music. It's a celebration. The second light post had just been installed. Everyone's cheering, saying this one will help bring even more food. Azurat's eyes go wide. Does this mean he's free at last? No more living like a rotisserie chicken, being roasted day and night. But no, they're just standing side by side. And Kratos zaps both of them with lightning again. By now, Azurat's kind of used to it. He just gets a little crispy in size. Sardathol, watching all this unfold, starts screaming that they can't do this to poor Ficamir. But Kratos doesn't stop. More lightning. Zap. And the guy keeps crying out that it must hurt like hell. Zap again. And again. Eventually, Ficamir begs him to stop. That's when Kratos notices a raven nearby, and he knows exactly what that is. A messenger bird used for transmitting information. Now he's certain Sardathol is watching everything. That bastard trying to sabotage his crops is going to pay dearly. Sometime later, under the blazing sun, there's Flute, cute as ever, happily working the soil. Asura turns to her and asks, "Sweetheart, what are you doing?" Flute explains that since the 4 generals had helped out so much, she wanted to do her part too. He calls her an idiot. Ficamir had already handled that entire plot of land. She should be doing something useful instead. So Flute walks over to Ficamir and asks if it's true. He not only prepared the soil, but also stood there taking lightning strikes for everyone's sake. That was really kind. Ficamir, looking all bashful, says she's the kind one, and that she made it all worth it. But Asura warns her again that she's not helping by hanging around here. All he knows is that when potatoes are heated, they seem to improve somehow. Hearing that, Flute immediately runs off, thanking him and saying she'll try to help with that. As she disappears, Asura just mutters, "What's a low-ranked demon like her even going to accomplish?" Back at the castle, Zephyros says, "My lord, I don't know if this plan of yours is going to work. Saruthal already knows it's a trap. Why would he come here?" Kratos explains that the idiot won't come himself. First, he'll send his subordinates, and every last one of them will be wiped out. He already gave Baal the order. No one gets out alive. Meanwhile, Saruthal, of course, is watching everything unfold. He sneers that Kratos is a fool. Did you really think he'd sacrifice his own soldiers so carelessly? As much as it hurts losing Ficamir, he only has one goal: wipe out the farm. So he commands his specters to destroy the crops. Every potato needs to be ruined. Nothing must be left standing. The ghosts go wild, storming into the warehouse, but Kratos is already there, waiting. "Just like I thought," he says. "Knew you bastards would show up. Welcome to the cemetery." He remembers the first time he ran into this guy in the game. He panicked. Saruthal's second elite squad was a nightmare. Their biggest problem? They'd always moved in large groups. The worst part, if you touch them physically, they'd latch onto you and drain your age, along with any currently equipped abilities. But he knew the trick to beating them. He asks, "All right, who wants to get deep-fried first?" The secret was simple. Use magic, especially lightning. The specters panic, realizing it's a trap. But Kratos smirks. Too late. This is the real trap. The doors slam shut. Strange blood seals them. And that blood, it's his. Kratos unleashes a massive area attack, lighting everything up. He yells for the guards to rush in and strike now. Demons pour in from all sides. With their ghostly forms gone, the specters are easily overwhelmed and tortured. Kratos watches it all and thinks, man, this plan was so Demon King alpha-level genius. He even says it out loud. Maybe I really do belong in this world. The only downside? A few of the little spirits hadn't been burned and were zipping around, throwing lightning bolts like nothing. But suddenly, right from the potato pile, Flute pops out. Kratos looks over. One of the spirits is heading straight for her, ready to steal her youth. Her father screams in horror. And Kratos, still frustrated that people weren't doing their jobs, still finds himself wanting to save her. But the lightning's not going to reach her in time. Almost instinctively, he tosses a lightning-charged potato her way, knowing it probably won't do anything. But when it hits the spirit in the head, something weird happens. The ghost tries to steal its soul, and somehow it works. The potato sprouts leaves right then and there. The other specters panic and flee while Kratos stands there stunned. That's when it hits him. These ghosts age whatever they touch. The edges fast-forwarded the biological clock of the potato. He grabs Flute and tells her she did an amazing job. She's still a little shaken and bolts off, while he turns to everyone else and announces, "That's enough with this business of fearing Sardathol. From this point on, we're going on the offensive." The next chapter opens with poor Asura tied to the cross, staring into the sky, asking himself, "Who even am I? Where am I? What the hell am I living for? This sun's so beautiful. I honestly feel happy just being able to look at it every day." Asura murmurs to himself. The only downside is always being starving. That's when Flute pops up, cute as ever, and cheerfully says everything's going well. They've been harvesting tons of potatoes, and Kratos is even putting together a new army. The moment he sees food, Asura starts freaking out, shaking his head frantically. Flute tells him she'll give him just a little and tosses a small potato at him. It hits him square in the eye. He yells that he's going to kill her, but she throws 3 more. 2 hit him right in the eye, and 1 in the mouth. As much as it hurt, it was delicious. That bite alone made him feel so good that Kratos even earned another happy point. After everything he'd done, he was up to 302. He didn't even know who the last one came from, but it didn't matter. The more, the better. He needed every bit of it to prepare for the assault on Sardathol. He calls for the army and tells them to get ready. They're almost there when a few ghosts shout, "They're gonna cut the bridge." And sure enough, they cut it without hesitation. But hold on, Kratos just jumps. They yell that he's a moron, but of course he's about to use the butt glitch again. The spirits are confused. He turns his back, glances once, twice, and boom, he's already on top. The 2 ghosts flee, muttering how terrifying that demon is. Kratos turns and thinks it all went just as planned. He points to Zephyros and bolts ahead. Saruthil points from a distance, telling the ghosts to kill him now that he's alone. Kratos charges forward, but of course uses the glitch again. The guy only has one real move. The spirits try to grab him, but just as they're about to, he sinks into the ground. Eventually, he reemerges, surrounded on all sides. The spirits close in, saying that even he, the Demon King, will eventually run out of stamina. But Kratos says flatly, "I'm a veteran player." And just then, potatoes start raining from outside, a barrage of them. The moment they hit the spirits, the ghosts start getting absorbed, converted. Zephyros watches in awe, thinking, "I really wasn't sure this time," but once again, the Demon Lord's plan worked. He remembers when Kratos explained that they gather all the enemies in one spot, and all they had to do was fire potatoes at them. And it worked. Plus, Kratos knew of a secret shortcut straight to Saruthil. After 19 full playthroughs, of course, he knew every path, crack, and hidden corner. When he was exploring that area on the map, he saw a weird structure. He thought, why is this even here? The texture looked off, so he attacked it, and sure enough, found the hidden path. That's how he discovered the cave that led straight to Saruthil. He also came across a metamorphosis elixir and a compressed soul made from countless corpses. Who knows what that does? Back on the ground, demons are celebrating. They finally had something to eat. And that's when Kratos suddenly remembers his grandma, telling him that he looked like he'd been starving lately. She promised to make dinner that night. But yeah, he ended up going by ambulance instead, didn't he? Now the guy's all emotionally wrecked. He declares loudly, "Anyone who stands in the way of my will to feed people will be completely destroyed." Suddenly, Ball steps up and says, "Saruthil is strong. He's going to help." But Kratos says, "Nope, your job is to carry potatoes. That's the job of the boss." Meanwhile, Saruthil is standing before the great spirit of ice, calling for more beasts born from his glorious cold to bring terror and troops to his side. But his chant is cut off by a boot stomping on his face. Confused, he asks how Kratos is already here. Kratos just shrugs. "That's not your concern. I'm here to exterminate this pest." Saruthil growls that he's a fool for coming here alone and thinking he could win. Clearly, he hasn't witnessed the true power he possesses. But Kratos has seen it. Oh, he's seen it 19 times already, and he's had enough of that cursed power. Back when he was hunting down Saruthil for the first time, he used to walk through those mountains, wiping out every last spirit. The creatures would slowly gather inside this strange crystal that absorbed souls, and once Saruthil had absorbed enough power, he would summon even more demons. Only after taking care of those would he finally reveal his true ability. A tornado would swirl in the sky, and Saruthil would say, "You're strong, Kratos. I'll give you that." And then he'd grin and say, "Which is exactly why I'm going to win this fight." Boom, he transforms into Kratos 2.0. Yeah, the guy could perfectly copy enemy stats and replicate their abilities. Since he was a boss from near the end of the game, obviously by the time you fought him, you'd be insanely strong, and that made him just as powerful. But this time, the stats he copied were from Kratos at that exact moment, and let's be honest, he wasn't all that strong yet. Saruthil charges at him, but Kratos opens his inventory and immediately starts pumping points into dexterity. Right then and there, he dodges the first hit and nails Saruthil in the stomach. Saruthil swings again, but Kratos boosts his strength and throws hands back, blow for blow. Saruthil shouts, "This is impossible. How are you at full power already?" Kratos replies, "If you want to work in agriculture, you've got to keep a clear head too." Saruthil prepares a lightning spell, slashes his hand to trigger it, but Kratos is already boosting his magic power and mental strength and fires his own lightning attack. And of course, Kratos' bolt is stronger. It blasts through Saruthil, turning him into a puddle of sludge. The gooey mess drops to the ground and looks like he's done for. Then the system chimes in. Since all attributes have been acquired, he now has permission to summon the throne and the farmer. And yeah, it totally looks like a Game of Thrones chair. But instead of swords, it's covered in pitchforks, straw, watering cans, and all kinds of farm stuff. Kratos lights up. Finally, he's getting some proper equipment. But the puddle speaks up. This isn't over yet. And Kratos just sighs, "I figured." There's always a second phase. Saruthil transforms into an ancient dragon. Kratos steps back impressed. Okay, the bastard really does look like he's got a ridiculous amount of HP. But he had a plan. Right then, Bale crashes in, kicking from behind, bringing the whole squad with him. Kratos smiles and says, "Straight out of the game's final stage." Saruthil hesitates for a moment, even gets a little teary-eyed, and asks if they can maybe talk this out. Nope. The whole squad jumps him, every demon, even the farmers. They beat him down relentlessly. Kratos just watches, thinking about how these were the same guys who were starving not long ago. He then decides, now's the time to summon the throne. In the middle of the sky, clouds start swirling and the throne descends from above, straight towards Saruthil. Boom! Obliterated. Kratos just stands there, stunned. The demons look at the crater, realizing Saruthil got completely flattened. They start cheering, saying they never imagined the Demon King could be so savage. Finishing off the enemy by dropping a throne on his head, that was a first. Kratos has no idea what to say. That definitely wasn't the plan, but still he joins in the celebration. Now that was the perfect ending. Not far from Azurat, Fikamur starts glowing softly, his form lighting up all cute. The entire field had been turned into fertile land. The potatoes were ready. The greatest threat was gone. It was time to begin the planting season. But just as they're wrapping up, Sorgathol's crystal starts shaking. The system notifies Kratos. This was his 20th time defeating that boss. Kratos realizes, yep, the game remembers. And as a hidden reward, a secret event gets triggered. A spirit trapped inside that crystal was about to awaken, depending on how it had been treated. The crystal begins to let out a thick mist. Kratos steps closer, trying to understand what's going on. And of course, because this is his world, there had to be something kinda cute coming out of it. Well, maybe not super cute. It's a dragon, but still, it flashes him a little smile, even though it's asking for a T-bone steak. Kratos struts up with full swagger while the little creature blinks and quietly wonders, is this guy my dad? He picks up the baby dragon, who clings to him, and all you hear is, steak, steak. The little guy was happy. He thought he was going to be born into this world without ever having a dad. That is, until Kratos looked at him and said he was really cute, and the dragon started trembling all over. They're heading back home with the whole squad cheering, yelling that they're gonna feast tonight. The dragon looks a little nervous, and that's when Kratos turns to him and says, first, you gotta grow big before you get eaten. The poor dragon instantly thinks he's doomed. He's 100% convinced he's being fattened up for the slaughter. But just then, Kratos stops walking. He looks ahead and sees the entire demon kingdom gathered, jumping up and down with joy, celebrating their return. Families are waving at their kids, all happy and wholesome. The little dragon starts to notice that, strangely, the energy here feels kind of positive. The demons aren't even that scary, until he sees Kratos from below again. Later on, the dragon's tucked in the corner of a room, shivering like crazy. Poor thing. Kratos is just staring him down. The second their eyes meet, the dragon freezes up again. He's sure they're just waiting for him to grow a little more before cooking him. Kratos, meanwhile, is trying to figure out what on earth you're supposed to feed a dragon. He assumes these kinds of creatures only eat refined gemstones or some rare exotic stuff, which obviously is impossible to find around here. Suddenly, Zephyros shows up and says things aren't going as smoothly as expected. Unfortunately, for proper planting, you need to build mounds, and the soil has to be rich and dense. The issue? This whole area is full of rock. The crew is struggling to move it all, and it's still not enough. And there's little Steak over in the corner, thinking his future is pretty much sealed. He's gonna be worked to death here. Forget T-Bone, we're calling him Steak from now on. It just sounds way cooler. Kratos stands there thinking this place feels more like a coal mine than farmland. If they keep burning through their energy like this, they're gonna run out of potatoes fast. And once hunger kicks in again, productivity is going to collapse. He's frustrated, wishing he was like one of those protagonists from some story who has a special power and that could solve everything. But all he's done so far is starve. That's when he notices Flute, off in the corner, digging and working her heart out. And he realizes it's time to stop whining. He needs to find a way to fix this too. Suddenly, someone shouts, a razor wind is coming. It's one of those random, violent natural disasters Kratos had forgotten about. Anyone caught in one gets shredded to pieces in seconds. He quickly orders everyone to hide behind the rocks. Even from a distance, the pressure is overwhelming. These winds are death for any kind of farming. And of course, Flute's going to mess it up. She runs straight toward Asura, still tied up. Kratos and her father shout after her, but she's already bolting. That's when our guy tosses Steak into her father's arms and takes off, yelling, anyone who follows me dies. Bale's screaming that it's too dangerous, that he needs to come back and give it up. Of course, Kratos knows that, but he can't afford to lose their lightning rod and a rookie worker on day one. Flute's desperately trying to free Asura, who's yelling her to leave, telling her to get out of there before she dies. Kratos charges in, thinking to himself that life on this farm really does feel like going to war. He tells the kid to move and comes in full speed with a flying kick, breaking the lightning rod. It crashes into the ground. Everyone's skin is already getting nicked by the wind. It's that vicious. Flute's trying to pull Asura out, but he tells her to give up. Not even the 4 heavenly kings could rip that thing out. Then she's yanked back. Kratos grabs her, throws the lightning rod over his shoulder too. Steak, watching from a distance, can feel the resistance in the air, and he knows his dad's not that strong. But still he's running full force, risking everything to help others. Kratos stumbles. The slicing winds are too intense. He drops the lightning rod and hits the ground hard. And that's when little Steak decides to step in. He takes flight, flapping up into the storm, plants himself right in front of the tornado, takes a deep breath, then unleashes a full-blown ice barrage straight into the heart of the wind. Barely conscious, Kratos notices that Steak had used his power to slow down the wind, but that was way too much for a baby dragon. The tornado keeps advancing, but right then the crew arrives, carrying everyone out of danger. Next chapter, we cut to the castle. There's Kratos lying in bed, looking extremely uncomfortable. That's when Hartok and Sergi walk in. Are they really about to try and kill our boy while he's down? Hartok says that while the Demon King's unconscious, he's going to slice his head clean off. Sergi agrees. After that, they'll take care of Baal and Asura and then decide between the two of them who gets to be the next Demon King. Hartok accepts the terms. For now, they'll be allies. The door creaks open. They're already standing by the bed, ready to strike. But suddenly, both freeze. Kratos' expression is not that of someone passed out. He's got the meanest look on his face, and now they're questioning everything. Was he awake this whole time? Is he watching them right now? Still, they push forward. This was their only chance. Just as they're about to move, Azurat and Baal show up. Azurat looks like he's been through hell. 10 whole chapters getting zapped like a lightning rod. And Baal says, the Demon King's sleeping. Don't go messing with his map. But even looking at Kratos' face, they can't believe this is the expression of someone who's unconscious. Baal warns them. If they try to kill him and accidentally wake him up, they already know what's going to happen. Hartok says, I get why that musclehead over there is loyal. But you, Azurat, why the hell are you standing with this farmer now? Azurat replies, it's just this once. Next time, he will kill Kratos. But for now, he owes him a life. Hartok points out that these potatoes have already caused nothing but trouble. If this fails now, everyone's going to starve. And Azurat responds, that's exactly how it works. If you don't want to starve, you've got to put your life on the line. He admits he'd rather risk his life in war than in farming, but hey, it is what it is. Hartok just scoffs and says they're both fools, then turns and walks out, muttering that they're all gonna regret this real soon. Suddenly, someone yawns. Kratos wakes up and spots Azurat. Azurat quickly blurts out, don't get the wrong idea, Demon King. I'm only here to pay back the debt from before. But Kratos narrows his eyes and asks, why is my lightning rod walking around and talking now? Azurat hesitates for half a second, and bam, he gets zapped. Next thing you know, the guy's clothes are gone and he's being hauled right back to the lightning post. Again. Kratos says he's ready to get back to work, but Bo explains that they've almost cleared out all the rocks. Zephyros has been helping with that. When Kratos goes to check it out, sure enough, there's Zephyros bossing everyone around. Kratos asks, hey, where'd all the rocks go? Zephyros points to the sky, and there it is, Steak, flying around, picking up the rocks in his mouth and hauling them far away. Ah, that little guy helping out like that kind of reminds you of other small creatures from certain fantasy stories, huh? Steak, meanwhile, is thinking that he might be too little to fight a tornado, but this is something he can do to help. Kratos calls out to him, scoops him up, and starts petting him with a slightly evil smile. But Steak looks like he's gotten used to it, and maybe even likes it. Kratos is feeling confident now. Even if those razor winds come back, he knows he can use Steak to counter it. All he has to do is anticipate their arrival. Zephyros walks up and warns that they're running low on potatoes to reward the workers. He asks if he should start stockpiling more. Kratos shakes his head. The first enemy of a farm is natural disasters. The second is cost. Those are the two walls we need to break through. Elsewhere in the castle, Sergi removes her helmet and hold on a second. Is she a badass elf girl? Yep. Only downside, she reeks of manure from working in the fields all day. There's also the tiny detail of her having 6 arms. But let's be honest, some of you out there probably wouldn't even hesitate. I would never say a bath would fix that. Just then, someone knocks on the door asking to speak with Sergi. She recognizes the voice. It's the Demon Lord. She immediately says there's nothing they need to talk about. He asks her to open the door, please, but she insists she wants to avoid any interaction with him. He tells her it's impossible to talk things out without being face to face, and then says he's coming in. She turns to yell at him not to break the door, but of course he's already using his usual glitch. Yep, he's suddenly standing calmly right in front of her, while she wonders why on earth this guy just barged into a lady's room. Suddenly, Kratos drops to his knees. She's confused. Then he says without her, he really can't do anything. She's taken aback, just for a second, and the next moment, her cheeks are bright red. Meanwhile, Kratos is thinking that if this is what it takes to save money, then yeah, he'll kneel. What he needs right now is a sharp blade. Sergi is flustered, twirling her hair like a princess, saying that if he's asking her like that, how's she supposed to say no? Kratos, on the other hand, is totally lost. He has no clue what's happening. It's clear this girl loses her cool way too easily. Cut to standing in front of a giant pile of potatoes. Kratos tells her he needs her to slice all of them in half for planting. Reality smacks Sergi in the face, sheep and played. Still, it's kind of an upgrade. At least she's slicing cute little potatoes now instead of shoveling manure. But of course, Kratos asks her to cut perfectly, even separating the little green sprout ends to opposite sides. He holds up 2 and tells her to sort them, then tosses them, and before she can say no, she draws her sword and slices them in midair. Kratos jumps back, stunned. You seriously cut them that cleanly. He's in awe. He turns and says he was right. She's the only one who can pull something like this off. Smooth talker, the king of psychology, and Sergi, she's weak to that. But she snaps herself out of it, swearing she won't fall for that again, until he gives her that look and gently grabs her wrist. Then he steps in close, she's flushed red, and wipes the blade clean, making it shine. Sergi asks, what are you doing, Demon King? Kratos replies, there's some potato juice on it. Of course I have to clean it. Sergi's mind is racing. Is this guy insane? That look, why does it feel so warm, so sincere, so intense? Kratos is calmly thinking that a clean blade is perfect for hygiene. After all, she was chopping up poop just a little while ago. Then he says he's asking one more time. She's the only person he can count on for this. Sergi turns away, cheeks red, and says fine. She'll help, but just this once. While thinking to herself, this dumb Demon King, he really can't do anything without me. Right away, he sprints off like a kid yelling that she's amazing, and he'll go get some water. They'll be cutting all night long. While the potatoes start flying, Hartok can be heard nearby, overhearing something like, "Don't hold my hand like that. Open your arms to the side." He peeks into the scene, our demon king assisting his precious little servant, and Hartok immediately realizes Sergi had become one of those brainwashed fools, voluntarily working for this guy, all because of a few compliments. Meanwhile, Azurite is still out there in the sun, wondering what the point of life is, what his goals are, and what the future holds for a lightning rod. That's when Flute shows up and says they can play that potato throwing game again. He tells the low-class brat to get lost. As soon as he's free, he's going to eat her alive. But she just keeps pelting him with potatoes anyway. And once again, Hartok is watching. He's certain now Azurite is done for. There's no saving that one. Then someone yells, "The potatoes are here." It's Ball and Zephyros, hauling in piles of potatoes. Hartok just stares. Even Bo, there's no hope left, especially for someone with intelligence that far below average. The demons were all crowding around Sergi, thanking her non-stop, saying that without her, none of this would have been possible. She stood there awkwardly, telling them to cut it out, that she didn't do it for anyone else. Hartok was watching, and he could see it in her eyes, that soft, fluttery look. That wasn't the face of a cold-blooded demon general. It was ridiculous watching demons cry over potato seeds. They should be ashamed. Everyone in this place was a complete idiot. But he, Hartok, the intellectual pinnacle of Demonkind, he would steal that throne. Kratos tells everyone to keep planting. Soon something amazing would sprout from this soil, and when that happened, they have to cut off the sprouts from some of the plants. Baal volunteers to do the cutting, but Kratos tells him to shut up and keeps explaining. He says each potato they planted could grow between 3 and up to 6 sprouts. Then he asks them, "Do you think having more or fewer sprouts is better?" The demons shout, "More, obviously." Immediately, Kratos tells them they're wrong. Fewer is better. Hartok's eyes twitch. This whole conversation is pathetic. The demons start asking why fewer would be better. It makes no sense. Shouldn't more sprouts mean more food? Hartok can't take it anymore. You really are brainless. If a bunch of sprouts show up, they'll compete for nutrients. And that means the potatoes you eat will have fewer nutrients. Kratos turns to him. "Wait, how do you know that?" Hartok replies, "It's extremely basic. If the sprouts are all feeding from the same potato, obviously the result is weaker in the end." Kratos nods and asks, "So how many sprouts would be ideal?" Hartok rolls his eyes. 2, obviously. Why are you even asking? 1 would be ideal in a perfect scenario, but with 2, you at least have backup if one fails. Kratos tells him to keep going. Then what? Hartok grumbles that it's all so obvious. Now that the soil is super healthy, other plants might try to leech off its nutrients. That's why they need to ensure everything goes to the potatoes. In short, they have to pull out anything that's not a potato. Anyone with half a brain could have figured that out in a minute. Kratos claps and tells everyone to applaud, because clearly they've got a genius among them. Everyone starts cheering, "Genius, genius, genius." Hartok's losing it. His mother always called him an idiot, and now tears, he's crying, even he doesn't understand why. Kratos smiles and calls his name. Finally, I found someone wise and brilliant among Demonkind. From this day forward, Hartok would be the head of the farmers division. Hartok thinks it's absurd. His intelligence was built for thievery and murder. But Kratos turns around and tells everyone to show proper respect to the elite of their race. Everyone starts chanting, "Elite, elite, elite." Hartok wants to kill every last one of them. But instead, he steps forward and says they better listen carefully to what he's about to say. In the background, Kratos watches. He knows it worked. The demons cheer. He just won another psychological battle. He saw through Baal's neglected heart and managed to turn him into a loyal subordinate. He gave Azurite a friend, someone who once swore he'd never have one, and even toned down his violent nature. He softened Sergi, a girl who'd never been loved before, and he gave Hartok the validation he'd always wanted, to simply be seen. These demons, all of them had fragile hearts. Because of that, Kratos earned 200 happy points plus a new ability, Blood Eye. Kratos tilts his head. That one? He doesn't remember ever unlocking it before. It lets him see the future of anything he looks at, though for now, only up to 6 hours ahead. And not just for living beings, he could see the future of objects too. That's when it hits him. The psycho just realized he can finally predict the weather. Next chapter starts somewhere between the Lost Lands, Demon Territory, and Human Domain. That place is known as the Village of the Exiled. And guess who's there? Lloyd with Javier's hair. And Javier with Lloyd's hair. Dear God, Javier looks weird, and he thanks Lloyd for taking such good care of him. Lloyd, looking even more busted than usual, says he's going to work hard, make a ton of money, and boss everyone around. At least that part hasn't changed. Out of nowhere, Javier turns to old Kimchi and asks if he plans on going back to the Demon Kingdom with them. The blonde pauses and says he's not sure. Like you mentioned before, he doesn't really know who he is, and he doesn't remember any of the humans around here either. On top of that, the first people he met didn't seem all that interested in being friends. So where would someone like him even be accepted? The Walmart do glance at him for a second and suggest, maybe start by changing those clothes. They all start heading off, and even though he wraps himself up, he's still got that same outfit underneath. Kimchi keeps thinking he really wants to tear this thing off, but for some strange reason, the clothes won't come off. It's like they're fused to his skin, literally part of him. Before leaving, Javier tells one of the guys that he's going to ask the king to look into this village. Living in exile here is awful. Watching all that, Kimchi can't help but notice that boy is genuinely noble. Even out here, this close to demon territory, he's risking himself for others. And not only that, he doesn't seem arrogant. He's decent. It makes him wonder what kind of person he used to be. Based on his memories, he seems like the type who went around killing everything. And now, he has no idea what someone like him is supposed to do besides kill. Back in demon territory, everyone's gathered around. The first sprout has appeared. They're all shouting that the first little sprout has finally broken through. All the demons come rushing to see, totally amazed. Even Flute runs over to tell Asura, who just snaps, "If you show up here one more time, I will eat you." Kratos arrives right then and says it's time to move on to the next phase. He turns to the genius of Demonkin with the unmatched brain and tells him to explain the process. Immediately, Hartok, shining with confidence, begins explaining that they now need to build up a mound of soil around the potato plant to protect it from sunlight. If potatoes are exposed to direct sunlight, they lose their flavor, or worse, become toxic. Kratos praises him, telling everyone there's truly no one as brilliant as this guy. Even Little Steak is clapping along happily. Then Kratos glances upward and says it's time to check the weather for today. He'd spent 200 happy points to upgrade that ability. The only problem? To activate it, he has to stare at the sky non-stop for 200 seconds. And that hurts. The demons start whispering, saying the demon lord is tearing up, clearly emotional from seeing the first sprout. Time passes and the system pings, congratulating him and confirming today's forecast, sunny and dry. They'd better go water the field. Great news for Steak, who gets to take the day off. Right then, Zephyros appears, saying he's got urgent news. A subordinate from the 2nd Division commander has arrived. Back at the castle, someone introduces himself as Loplo, one of the people from the 2nd region. Apparently, the moment they received word of the ceasefire, the 3rd Division launched a surprise attack. They're saying the Demon Lord's gotten weak, and now anyone can steal the throne. Zephyros explains that if the 3rd Division defeats the 2nd, they'll most likely join forces, and that would not be easy to stop. Kratos knows they'll have to head out and deal with it. The problem is, he can't abandon the farm either. And to make things worse, the area under attack is known as the Swamp of Decay, a place ridiculously far and annoyingly massive. Sadly, the abandoned well he usually used for teleportation in the game isn't working anymore. So now he's stuck with the question. How the hell is he supposed to balance war and agriculture? As he's deep in thought, Steak licks his face until Kratos finally comes to a conclusion. The boss doesn't need to leave the castle. Sergei, who now walks around permanently blushing 24/7, insists she's not fighting for him, okay? Meanwhile, Ball swears he'll follow any order, no matter what it is. Kratos decides that these blockhead demons are actually the best ones to send into battle. After all, they're completely useless when it comes to farming. Pretty bold of him to say that, considering he relies on Sergei for literally everything. He explains something about a shortcut. Since they're stepping outside the boss area, if they return to the previous base, there's some sort of auto-teleport mechanic. He's not entirely sure how it works, but somehow they'll arrive quickly. And with that, he orders them to move out. At the swamp, there's a wooden-looking demon kneeling down, asking how the Hell Rustler could betray the Demon King like that. That demon is none other than Planus, the master of the 2nd region. Someone walks up and calmly says that this isn't a rebellion. It's all just a big misunderstanding. All he wants is to keep the war going, because if they stop now, the demon race will go extinct. Peace would ruin them. Planus argues that everyone's putting their faith in Kratos, that he'll make agriculture viable, and that they won't need to fight humans anymore just to survive. But Rustler fires back. That's not the problem. The real issue is that fighting with honor is what defines the pride of the demon race. Right as he raises his massive hammer to strike, bam! Something hits his weapon and sends it flying. He turns around, and there they are, Sergei and Ball, just arriving. Sergei steps forward and says, "You're right. We are a race that fights. We love walking around, slaughtering everything in our path. But when did we become like this? And why are we forced to live this way?" Cut to Flute bursting through the door, yelling to her dad, "Come see the fields." Sergei continues, saying maybe it's finally time to understand something important. Saving lives instead of taking them could give them a much greater sense of pride. Back at the farm, the fields have bloomed like crazy. Everyone is in awe, even Azurat, our poor lightning rod of a demon, has tears welling up in his eyes. Those two smart alecks that always act like twins are watching closely. And our demon? He stands silently, seeing everyone celebrating, and for once, not a single soul is fighting. Flute walks up all sweet and adorable to our demon lord. He's looking amazing. She says she's never seen anything like this before, and he's just standing there with a little grin on his face. Meanwhile, back in the chaos, good old Sergei is using all 6 of her arms to beat the crap out of that fool Ruster, who got caught by the bucket and just kept getting pummeled. Man, it's looking like Azurat all over again. Out in the fields, Kratos says, "Yep, Tons of beautiful flowers have bloomed, really a whole lot of them. Ruster keeps complaining, saying they promised no one was going to be killed, and now their words and actions weren't matching up. Sergi admits that's true, but unfortunately, sometimes you have to take someone out to protect everyone else. Back with Kratos, he orders all the flowers in the field to be cut down. Everyone's standing there stunned. Even Asura is pacing back and forth, saying the Demon King is being way too cruel. Hartok agrees, showing no mercy to such a beautiful field is just heartless. But when the order is given and the demons go to start pulling the flowers, the little plants start crying and flopping to the ground, saying they can't be cut. No one's ever seen anything like it. It was just too beautiful. Hartok explains they don't realize those things are sucking up all the nutrients from the sunlight. It's all part of the Demon Lord's master plan to redirect energy toward growing potatoes. So they pull them out, suffering as the plants die, and Kratos, who now looks just like Lloyd, starts shouting that he can hear the screams of the potatoes growing. Back in the mess, Ruster had already been beaten down and dragged in front of Kratos, who announces that this is what happens to anyone thinking about rebelling. The front line had already fallen too. So now what's Ruster gonna do? He tells them to just kill him. He refuses to serve a demon lord who's lost his pride. He'd rather, bam, gets zapped. Problem solved, and just when you thought he couldn't make it worse, he blurts out, "My body is an intact suit of armor." That only tickled a bit. A buck for anyone who guesses what happens next. Of course, he gets hit with an antenna and blasted with lightning again. Then Kratos says to uninstall another antenna over there. Ruster was losing his healing capabilities. It was time to retire him. The ropes pull him off and Asura can barely walk straight. Fluke comes running over, all sweet, calling his name. But he turns around and tells her she humiliated him for far too long. Now it's her and Kratos' turn to be devoured. She's shocked, and he comes charging like a demon, all twisted up, and just collapses like a fool. He hasn't been able to walk properly in forever, so he's got no strength left. Bale tells him to quit using those big dramatic words like he's still the same guy as before. He picks him up in his arms while Asura is screaming not to carry him like a little princess. And weirdly enough, he ends up being carried in with a blanket over his back, real peculiar. Bale announces that it's an order from the Demon King and he's going to be like that for a while. Strangely, the guy's blushing, muttering that he's not going to forgive this disgrace. Asura gets taken away while Kratos is thinking back to when they all looked at him with that cursed eye and saw he be paralyzed for 6 hours and unable to walk, so all's good. Then he announces to everyone that the harvest is coming up and they need to speed things up. With Sergi and her 6 arms, cutting the plants was a breeze. Hartok was using his mist storm to water everything. The autumn harvest wasn't far off. The only downside was that their rations were running out. Even though demons are used to starving, you could tell their efficiency was starting to drop. That's when Laplo shows up again, saying that Master Planus came to express his gratitude for being saved. Krios raises an eyebrow, asking what gratitude he's talking about, and the demon just looks confused. Strangely, the protagonist is staring daggers at him while the tree just stands there not getting it. But Kratos is pissed because the idiot came to say thank you and didn't bring a single gift. Then Laplo says they're gathering up the third master's subordinates and will send some workers soon. Kratos is standing there thinking the potatoes are growing well. Soon there will be a big harvest, and I need to profit a lot from this. He wants to see everyone's stuff full before anything else. But the question remains, why did he even start farming in the first place? He doesn't even remember anymore. Laplo asks if he can call in the troops, and Kratos tells him to hurry up. He remembers that the third guy was one of the weakest and least developed of the bunch. Looks like they really admired strength, but still stayed loyal to Kratos, even though he wasn't all that powerful. But here's a key detail. They all looked like trees and plants, so maybe that'll help with agriculture. As he walked around, Laplo could feel it. That soil was insanely fertile. It was packed with nutrients he'd never experienced back in that decaying swamp. When he was just a little sprout, the soil he grew up in had nothing. But this land, cultivated by Kratos, was something else entirely. He says he can feel himself growing strong, then slams into the wall and plants his roots, declaring that now he's going to become the Demon Lord. Oh boy, he's definitely asking to be chopped down. Next chapter, the blazing sun rises and Kratos orders everyone to get ready for training. The guys are there throwing their arms up to the other side, yelling a bunch of bams. Not sure what that is. Might be some kind of Korean army drill, who knows. Kratos is training them to respond quickly to commands, especially surprise ones. Out of nowhere, he yells for everyone to roll left. They do it perfectly. Roll right. They nail that too. Then Bale shows up with bad news. Something awful just happened. All the potatoes had turned yellow. When they arrive at the fields, everything looks dead. Seeing it, Zephyros says he figured this would happen. It was impossible from the start. Sergi lowers her gaze and Hartok admits he doesn't know what went wrong. Not enough wind, not enough water, but then he starts blaming himself, calling himself a fool for ever thinking they could grow anything here. Then Kratos walks up without saying a word, kneels down, grabs one from the soil, and pulls. And that's when they see it, 5, maybe 6 massive potatoes. Hartok is completely lost. These ones were a paler color, but they were huge. Kratos just says, what can he say? The potatoes had awakened. They absorbed all the nutrients from the leaves as they grew, which is why the plants turned yellow. All he can tell everyone is that they did an amazing job. Everyone there was part of their birth. The group breathes deeply, and Bowl is visibly moved. Sometime later, lying in the most uncomfortable bed in the world, no blanket or anything, Kratos remembers talking about growing everyone together, just like what his grandma said when he cared for a plant and helped it grow. Sadly, not long after, the ambulance came and took her away. He rolls over, muttering that getting sentimental is nonsense. A cold, calculating person like him doesn't need to feel things like that. Soon, they have enough potatoes, but they couldn't let their guard down. If they relied only on potatoes, what happened to the Irish Empire could happen to them too. Apparently, there was an event where the soil suddenly stopped producing potatoes for no known reason, and everyone starved. We complain about our lives, but starving to death? That's something else. Everyone around you dying of hunger? Man, that's harsh. Kratos is deep in thought, realizing they'll need new seeds soon. But suddenly, the ground starts shaking. He wonders if the castle was built poorly. Then out of nowhere, the earth splits open and a bunch of roots burst up in front of him. He immediately yells, asking what the hell is going on. Back at the field, Flute is examining some leaves and sees they're kind of melting, disappearing into thin air. That shouldn't be happening. They're supposed to wither naturally, not vanish like they're being eaten. She instantly realizes something's wrong and starts digging. But when she pulls one out, there's no potato. She knows she has to tell the grown-ups. But when she looks toward the castle, it's completely surrounded by roots. And the worst part? Kratos is pinned down, completely immobilized by the Lord of the Third Region, who says that Lord Kratos was nothing more than a filthy little insect. Kratos recognizes him, Planus, who thanks him for the fertile soil and nutrients he provided. Thanks to Kratos, he was able to grow all of this. From a distance, Kratos immediately notices the entire field is empty and yells, demanding to know what that bastard did to their food. Planus replies that it's funny how he's angry, but really, what's someone like him gonna do? Then he yanks him to the side and slams him flat on his back. Kratos coughs up blood on the spot. Hartok rushes in, yelling for everyone to clear out, while Bull calls for the rest of the group, saying they need to help the Demon King. But Asura and Sergi say there's no point. He's way stronger than any of them. There's nothing they could do. That's when Bull reveals he knows the Demon King is actually weak. He figured it out back when he tried to pull himself up that cliff. He's seriously fragile now. The ground is crumbling all around them and Planus. This guy's enormous. He's opened a crater so massive that Kratos is just falling into the void. Shout out to Ball, who knew our guy was weak, but still didn't betray him. Right then, Zephyros recognizes Planus, who declares to all demons listening, Kratos is dead. He reminds them of the ancient laws of demonkind. Power rules, and from this moment on, he is the Demon Lord. Everyone better kneel before absolute strength. Hartok feels it immediately. This guy had absorbed every last bit of nutrient from the land. If Kratos really is dead, then this guy's definitely the most powerful now. And without a second thought, he kneels, thinking to himself that demons really are meant to follow overwhelming strength. Even Sergi and the whole crew are down on one knee. What else can they do? Zephyros looks completely stunned. Azuret turns to him, asking what he's waiting for. He should show some respect to the new lord. It's clear now. Zephyros is probably the most honest of the bunch, and even Kratos once said he was truly loyal. He kneels, but only half-heartedly, and he's trembling all over. Planus stands there, full of himself, acting like he owns the place. Zephyros is even crying at this point, and then, suddenly, we see Kratos talking to his mother. She asks if he wants to play hide and seek. He knows what this is that day and asks if it's a dream. Man, his mom, already skinny as could be, probably sick too, tells him she's going to close her eyes, count from 1 to 10, and try to find him. That's cold. After that, she probably disappeared for good, didn't she? Little Kratos starts counting to 10. Poor kid. Life really did him dirty. When he finishes counting, he says she can come out now. And there he is, crying his eyes out. I actually feel bad for our Demon King. The poor guy couldn't even hold it together in front of his own memory. Then the system chimes in, telling Jankil to wake up. He's passed out somewhere tangled in roots, wondering if that was his system message. He asks where he is and if he died. The system just tells him to move. That was the only way he was going to survive. Kratos tries to activate his quantum movement, but there's no space. He can't even shift a single centimeter. His hands won't move, and whatever little energy he has is being drained. So maybe to keep himself from blacking out, he starts counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10, over and over again. Meanwhile, up top, Planus calls for the scribe to come forward. Zephyros steps up, and right away, Planus tells him to record this historic moment. He's to document everything that has happened and everything that's about to happen. Because from now on, demons will begin their invasion of the human race. Hartok's expression shifts instantly. They were back to square one. Back to living in constant war, killing each other like demons were always meant to. That's the quickest way to fill their bellies. So then, why was everyone so angry? Kratos keeps counting 1 to 10, but he can barely breathe anymore. And right then, Planus orders the demons to grab their weapons. They were heading to war. Zephyros hesitates, saying that marching out now is impossible. Of course, Planus shoots him a death glare, and everyone around him starts shaking in their boots. Zephyros explains that there's no way they can go to war when the only food they have left is a few potatoes, and the entire demon race is starving. That's not nearly enough provisions to support a march. Planus asks if he's always been this stupid, and then claims they actually do have enough supplies. Just then, he sends out a root that snatches Flute. Her father shouts out instantly, and Asura is locked on, watching. Planus says they've always had plenty of weak, useless demons lying around. That's always been the perfect food. Flute yells that they're not like that anymore. They didn't need to eat each other just to survive. Kratos had found a way out of this place, but Planus just stares her down and drops her straight into the abyss. Buried deep beneath all the roots, Kratos could feel his heart slowing down. The problem was, if he died, everyone would go back to starving again. So he uses the blood attack again to electrocute himself. He couldn't stand the thought of anyone else dying of hunger. With that, he throws his arm up and starts climbing, right through the earth itself. Meanwhile, Planus notices Asura had caught Flute in time. The Demon King keeps climbing upward, using his blood techniques to stay conscious. The issue is, he's digging and it feels endless. He has no idea if there's even the slightest chance of this working. Poor guy's digging at a diagonal. Obviously, he's never getting out that way. Back on the surface, Hartuk, Sergi, and Budil are frozen, shocked that Asura actually stood up to Planus. Flute's still in his arms, confused, and Planus asks if he's gone completely insane. Asura stares him down, full of courage, until his expression changes when he sees Planus make a move. So he says no, that's his food now. He's already eating it. See, it's super fresh, totally delicious. Of course, Planus doesn't fall for that nonsense and lashes him hard across the back with a whip of roots, launching him away. Poor guy instantly passes out. He's the weakest of all, just woke up, for crying out loud. Zephyros glances over, and that's when Planus says that this is the last time he's repeating himself. Everyone better get ready for war. But Zephyros, somehow, finds his courage and says there's no valid reason for this. The attack comes flying toward him, but Bull's massive axe intercepts it. Planus turns to see Bull hugging Zephyros awkwardly, saying the Demon King had already given him the role of counting the potatoes they harvested. Planus demands to know if these fools are trying to start a rebellion. From the back, Hartot calmly says that something like that would be impossible. It's just that, instead of launching an invasion, Krigo's agriculture initiative had been far more efficient, and a much more logical command to follow. Then Serbi steps up and says she has a question. The previous Demon Lord had shown them a path where no one had to die. So why should they go to war? Planus is losing it now, flinging roots everywhere, shouting that he is the authority. He is authority itself. But they pushed back, saying that authority has to be justified. And now all the farming demons are shouting, claiming the true Demon Lord is Kratos. He's going to have to pay for the potatoes and everything he stole. Planus unleashes a storm of root attacks, but Hartok simply sweeps his arm to the side and raises a mist barrier. What the heck? Synchronization kicks in. Sergi jumps into Ball's hands and he launches her forward. She cuts through every root trunk in her way. She gets right up in Planus' face and says the first thing she's taking is his eye. But obviously, look at the size of this guy. He swings once and she drops all 6 swords. At the same time, he surrounds Ball, crushes Hartok, and declares that no one should dare challenge his authority. Everyone here will die and learn exactly what happens when they stand against him. Kratos is no longer the Demon Lord of this place. That coward died without even putting up a fight. So what's so special about that guy anyway? Kratos was nothing. And then someone asks, why is your self-esteem so low? A hand suddenly rises and punches through the air, stopping the attack that was about to hit Zephyros. With that, the entire trunk shatters. The idiot just stares while Flute smiles, and the system announces that, in the face of death, he awakened the concentrated nutrition system. 10 minutes earlier, when Kratos was dragging himself through the dirt, thinking it was all too much, he suddenly remembered his grandmother making food for him. She asks what he just said. Quietly, he repeats it, saying that it was too hard. Why did he even have to keep living if everything was always so difficult? His grandmother gives him a look, plucks something from a plant, and tells him it's because they're still just seeds. All living beings are like seeds. They have to keep digging until they reach the surface and can finally bloom. When the first one breaks through, it encourages the others. And more sprouts start to emerge from that same spot, until eventually, everything turns green. But he yells at her not to say something so stupid. Then why did his father die from working himself to death? Why did his mother abandon him? And why was he the rotten seed? None of it made sense. If he was going to live, then he'd just be selfish and only think about himself, just like his mother did. He was fine with living alone. Of course, everything changed when she was taken away in the ambulance, still saying they were just seeds. Kratos keeps activating his blood attacks, and the system says he's endured the pain of death and rebirth. His spirit survived the limit, and for that, he unlocked the mana seed system. It was something he'd never even seen in the game. As a reward for 3 resurrections, his mana seed would start at level 3. This seed multiplied all of his attributes by a certain value. At this moment, that multiplier was 3 times. Seeing that, Kratos figured maybe it was enough to get out of there. On top of that, there was something about concentrating all stats into one single attribute that could be used once per day for 10 minutes. He opens his eyes, every stat now at 30%. He activates the human seed and everything jumps to 39%. Then he triggers the concentrated nutrition system, and all of it gets funneled into physical strength, boosted up to 155. Right then, he starts lifting the earth around him, the ground shaking like mad. Roots burst from the soil as his hand emerges. And now face to face with Planus, who asks if he really survived that place. Kratos answers that it should be obvious. He's standing right in front of him. All the demons see that Kratos is alive and start cheering, shouting that a bountiful harvest is on the way. Even Stake runs up and clings to him in a hug. Hartok celebrates, but both he and Sergi know that Guy is still way too strong. Bull can feel it too. With the kind of power he just sensed from Kratos, there's no way he can beat Planus. Planus, however, says it's perfect that Kratos showed up. Now he can be killed in front of all his subordinates. But Kratos calmly says no, he won't be killing anyone. No matter how massive he is, he still follows game logic. All he has to remember is that Planus is just a much bigger version of the same attacks. It's not all that different from the demons he trained using press-it patterns. He tells everyone to get up. It's time for a training session. And just like that, they're all up on their feet. He calls out for a quick hop to the left. They dodge the attack. Jump right. They dodge again. Time to duck. They avoid another strike. Planus starts throwing out a whole combo, but they're rolling, weaving, sidestepping, dodging everything. He's baffled. None of his gigantic attacks are landing. Kratos knows that after those attacks, there's always a delay. He's not going to tire Planus out, so he'll need to switch up his approach. He does a little spin and makes a face, clearly to provoke him. And sure enough, Planus loses it, launching roots in every direction. That's exactly what Kratos wanted, to push him into a berserker pattern. Normally in the game, you just beat the boss down, but in the real world, all it takes is some taunting. And right then, he gives Stake the order to move in and unleash a barrage of ice, blocking part of Planus' vision. Kratos knows that with a body that massive, brute force alone wouldn't cut it. But he also remembers, at the end of the day, Planus is still a plant, which means when he gets frozen, his tissue starts to expand and tear apart. The first roots snap and Planus is completely thrown off. At that moment, being frozen was the worst possible thing for him, especially in a berserker state, where he basically end up destroying himself. Stake stumbles back to Kratos and grabs his arm, completely exhausted. Kratos praises his effort and tells Zephyros to take care of him. Then he crouches down and jumps up, shouting that he's going to finish this. He knew another weakness common to tree-type monsters, that big hollow cavity in the middle of their chest. He slams his fist right into it, and a crater explodes outward. Just as the monster starts falling apart, Kratos' concentration buff ends. Now he's falling through the air while Planus is staggering backward, eyes starting to roll up. Looks like he fainted. Zephyros wonders aloud if the monster is really dead, but something doesn't feel right. Kratos can still see the body, and normally monsters disappear when they're defeated. That's when he sees it, a second version of Planus appearing in front of him. Problem is, right now, Kratos can't move a muscle. And man, this thing shows up like a Megazord. All the demons flinch, and Planus explains that he absorbed an insane amount of nutrients. Even though he nearly died, he simply redirected the rest of that energy into another body. He approaches Kratos, declaring that now that he's become the demon lord, his mission is clear. He's going to drench the entire world in poison. Then he lunges at Kratos, telling him to die. But the game has changed. Bale charges in with his axe and lands a solid hit on Planus' neck. This time even sinks in a bit. Still not enough. Bull gets thrown across the field. Sergi jumps in next, striking the other side of his neck with a combo, but she takes a hit to the gut. Meanwhile, Kratos is repeating that line of his. The other seeds are watching. Hartok joins the fray, landing a strike to the back of Planus' head. Planus slams him into the ground, roaring for these bastards to stop it already. But he forgot about one more. Asura appears behind him and says, "This one's for a bountiful harvest." He delivers a precise blow. Planus' head goes flying. As Kratos hovers on the brink of passing out, he watches the monster's body disintegrate along with a massive frozen version. Both vanish into nothing, dissolving into glowing green orbs. And foul-mouthed as ever, Kratos mutters that the bastard deserved every bit of it. Everyone stands still, watching those green specks fall. Hartok hears Zephyros getting ready to document everything, the betrayal and the victory of the Demon King's army. Right then, Hartok raises his arms and calls out Kratos' name, and everyone erupts in celebration. Sergi too, raising all three of her arms along with everyone else. But suddenly, Kratos tells everyone to stop. They freeze. He glances to one side, then the other, and realizes every single field has been destroyed. Their entire harvest would have to start over. And that meant they'd be hungry again for a while. How was he going to convince everyone to stick with agriculture after all this? He didn't have it in him to push them down such a cruel path, forcing everyone to go hungry again. Everyone's just staring at him now. What Kratos didn't see, though, was that those little green orbs were falling to the ground, touching the leaves, which immediately began to rejuvenate. Next chapter opens in a cell with someone saying he heard from the demons that apparently the demon lord had changed a whole lot. Looks like we're getting some backstory on Zephyros, who was born with a choker around his neck and glasses on his face. The guys in the cell are chatting about how it doesn't matter whether the Demon King changed or not. At the end of the day, they're all still going to be livestock under his rule. Right then, an orc walks in, gives everyone a cold look, and opens the door. Instantly, everyone bolts out in a panic. The creature, however, looks confused because the boy is just standing there doing nothing. Then it grabs him by the chest and lifts him up into the air. The kid doesn't react. The beast raises its massive axe, ready to strike his leg, but suddenly, Kratos appears and grabs his head. He doesn't just knock him away, he sends the whole head flying. Then he steps forward and asks the boy why he didn't show fear or beg for his life. Zephyros replies that it wasn't fear, it was relief. No matter what he did, they were just livestock to the Demon King. In the end, they were always going to die. Dying now would just save him from more suffering later. Kratos smiles and tells him that it's okay. He's different from the others. From now on, he was to follow him because he would be the one recording the Demon King's deeds. Someone like him would be wasted as food. Even though, for now, they still had to rely on consuming their own kind. One day, he would put an end to that. He would bring an end to the tragedy of demons needing to eat each other to survive. But now I'm confused because our boy only recently took over this body. The former Demon King wasn't that bad either. So what really happened? Zephyros is just staring at him, half unconscious. Then his expression shifts. He turns away, starts walking, and grabs a shovel. Everyone watches as he begins to dig. Seeing this, Hartok asks what the farmers were doing. And in that instant, everyone lights up and rushes off with tools in hand. Kratos just watches, stunned. Everyone's already planting again, happily singing while they work. Seeing that, Kratos finds his courage, stands up, and starts giving orders. He tells them to find any place where a live potato might still be. Teams 2 and 3 are to start sharpening their hoes. Sergi and Zephyros are to cut what's left of the seed plants. Hartok will lead Team 1 and Asura is to fetch the tools. Then he yells out that all of this is for a bountiful harvest. Ball already has a rope in his mouth, leading the guys with hoes as they charge across the fields. Kratos reflects that for a moment he forgot that agriculture was always like this. Natural disasters, pests, weather shifts, changes. The only thing you can do is dig the soil and plant again. In the end, life itself is a war. That's when Flute spots a healthy little sprout off to the side. She runs over to grab it, but as she pulls, she sees Ruster's arm sticking out of the dirt on the other side. She keeps tugging while he's begging for help. That's when Asura steps in and tells this low-ranking demon girl to step aside. He's got this. But when he pulls, man, out comes a potato bigger than his whole torso. The thing crashes down right on Ruster's head, leaving him all twisted up. Nobody has any idea what just happened, and they immediately call Kratos over. Flute tells him to check out this potato that's bigger than her head. He asks where she found it, and she explains that she just pulled one sprout and a bunch more came up with it. That's when Kratos remembers how it worked in the game. After you defeat Planus, his body falls into the ground, and from that very soil, leaves start to grow. In other words, since he had grown to such a massive size, his body must have touched pretty much the entire field. He immediately orders all the farmers to start digging. There were probably potatoes buried everywhere, and they hadn't died. Sure enough, the demons start digging and pulling out these massive, bowling ball-sized potatoes. Kratos is in disbelief, watching everyone haul cannonball-like crops. Zephyros turns to him and asks if this was the bountiful harvest. Kratos says yes, feeling a huge sense of relief. This truly was the legendary harvest that would allow everyone to eat. Next chapter, a land in ruins. It's time to check in on how things are going in the rest of the world. In the first region, Saruthel tried to lead a rebellion and was utterly destroyed. The heart of the ice spirit was shut down, all of his minions vanished, and the area is now uninhabitable. In the second territory, after Planus died, all of his subordinates were left aimless, not knowing what to do with their lives. In the third territory, their leader Ruster is currently being used as an antenna. Maybe all of that guy's subordinates should be punished for treason. The fourth territory belongs to a half-human, half-snake named Tartu, and in the game, he was a pretty realistic character. Kratos knows that the people from the second and fourth territories can be mobilized pretty easily. The problem is, he can't summon everyone all at once. If he tries to grow too powerful too fast, it'll just end up with too many mouths to feed. So little by little, he's going to recruit and get everything ready for the next harvest. That's when Zephyros shows up and says they're about to begin preparations for the next large-scale harvest. Kratos says it's good to know, but warns them to be careful with the food tickets. Then, a little black creature walks in saying that the orders have already been sent to each of the territories. Kratos asks if there's been any response. The little guy says no, it looks like the fourth territory hasn't responded at all. Kratos asks why. The creature stammers, saying the people there didn't say much. Didn't say much? Why not? Right then, Kratos grabs him by the wings and yells at the damn demon to use his brain and get some real information. The creature explains that it's because there are barely any servants left in the fourth territory. The place is practically deserted. Kratos realizes this fool didn't even ask why it was deserted in the first place. Dealing with a useless assistant like this is impossible. That's when Zephyros says that even though the behavior has improved a bit, Lord Kratos is still the ugliest of all demons. Then he adds that he'll go talk to the people himself and find out what's going on and where the fourth territory's master went. The little creature mentions that from what he heard, it seems like the guy went into human lands. Apparently, he's trying to gather some human bodies to use as fertilizer. Hearing that, Kratos freezes. According to the game, the moment the demons begin their invasion, a cursed paladin shows up to wipe everyone out. The key to avoiding that was not starting a conflict, because if that paladin comes, especially considering it's old man Kimchi, it's game over for everyone. Kratos immediately takes off running, saying he has to stop the fourth master right now. Zephyros asks about backup, but Kratos says no, he'll go alone, it'll be faster that way. And just like that, he activates the human seed with concentrated nutrition, boosts his dexterity, and takes off like lightning. Near the abandoned demon lands, there's a tower called the Paladin's Tomb, also known as the Tower of Life. According to the story, old man Kimchi was supposed to meet Javier and Weird Lloyd there and eventually find the isolated village. And just a little further down the road is the border between demon and human territory, Fort Magrat. From the top of the wall, a soldier of the spyglass says Javier is approaching with that awful servant of his, but there's something strange with them, something they'd never seen before. At the gate, a soldier named Wolkos asks where the rest of the troops are. Javier explains that, unfortunately, they ran into a monster horde and none of them made it out alive. They didn't even get close to demon territory. Wolkos lowers his head and says that exploring demon lands really is a tough special mission. Everyone who died was a great warrior. But for now, he tells them to go rest and recover. Javier and Lloyd walk past, but Wolkos blocks old man Kimchi, saying he can't go through. The two turn around and Kimchi gives him a look so intense that Wolkos instantly starts trembling. Javier, the knockoff Walmart version, pleads with him to let Kimchi pass. After all, this guy saved their lives. He's no threat. Then Lloyd steps in, hands in his pockets, and says that obviously this isn't going to be free, only to get slapped straight across the face and knocked to the ground. Wolkos tears into him, saying there's nothing worse than being born as his son. He brings nothing but an ugly face and a rotten heart. Poor guy is just lying there, wrecked. Was all that really necessary? Then Wolkos orders old man Kimchi to strip, warning that if he finds anything suspicious, he'll be executed on the spot. Obviously, Javier is totally caught off guard. There's no doubt that outfit was the most suspicious thing he could have been wearing. Old man Kimchi shoots a glance at Lloyd, but suddenly, everyone feels something off. Trumpets blare and someone announces that something is approaching. Off in the distance, you can see the demon army heading their way. Wolkos bolts off, shouting for the battalion to prepare. The moment Kimchi sees that army, he feels something take over him, like a command deep inside telling him to kill. Meanwhile, Kratos is speeding toward the battlefield, begging them not to attack. If this fight starts, all the demons will be wiped out. But the troops are already moving forward, ramming their siege pillars into the gate. Arrows rain down, demons are getting stones ready. The war had begun. The battering ram is pounding the door, and everyone inside is hiding wherever they can. Thankfully, Kimchi is standing there, head lowered, thinking about how he instinctively wanted to throw himself into that battle. It's like memories from his 19th reincarnation were surfacing when he pushed forward and slaughtered countless enemies. If Javier hadn't pulled him back just then, he would have charged in without a second thought. It shows how naturally he would have fallen into the fight without even questioning what was true or right. But at the same time, everyone else in the room is trembling with fear. Maybe he really should be the one to fight. The gate's about to break and people are frozen in shock. As soon as it collapses, the first wave of demons storms in. Tartu shouts for them to kill everyone and turn them into fertilizer. Wolkos orders the bridges to back be cut. Everyone was going to die there, but they had to at least stop the demons from reaching their homeland. And just like that, the bridge is blown up. Honestly, I thought Javier and the Wish version Lloyd would just show up for 10 seconds, but they're still going, so we're gonna have to rename these two. From now on, it's Javier and Lloyd, just so it's not the same. Javier hears the bridge go down and says, well, that's it. Lloyd adds that it basically means they're screwed. This is where they die, and he hasn't even gotten married yet. Javier tells him not to worry. He wasn't getting married even if they did survive. Lloyd says in the next life he's going to be born and noble and make Javier work his tail off. At least one of his wishes would come true. But just then, everyone clutches their heads as the first cobra-like demon breaks through the wall. It stretches its long arm, grabs a little girl who screams out for her mom. Javier wants to jump into action, while Kimchi just watches, and in one instant, the creature is vaporized. Javier lands with the girl in his arms, and obviously, it was Kimchi. Now it looks like he's finally joining the fight. He leaps straight at Tartu, landing face to face. Tartu's stunned to see this weirdo showing up like that, with his little heart-shaped wand. He's more confused by Kimchi's outfit than anything, like, what is this strange feeling he's getting? Kimchi calmly tells him to kneel down. He's not in the mood to fight. Tartu scoffs and tells him to cut the nonsense. Wearing that outfit and still try and give orders, he asks what Kimchi plans to do if he refuses. Kimchi simply replies, then your entire tribe will be wiped out. Tartu doesn't even hesitate. He ignores him completely and charges in with the first attack. As this is happening, Kimchi can only think, maybe this was the only choice. Fine, if this is his fate, then he'll accept it. He was born to kill demons. But just in time, our boy Kratos shows up and lands a flying kick to Tartu's neck. Kimchi is just left standing there, completely confused, while Tartu gets slammed into the ground. At that moment, Kratos turns his head and locks eyes with someone, and of all the places, it had to be this guy. Tartu tries to speak to the demon lord, but Kratos stomps on his face mid-sentence and starts beating the crap out of him. Kratos says, "You disobedient bastard. Why the hell are you invading the humans, you damn idiot? Shut your mouth, I'm gonna kill you." He glances back, sees that Kimchi isn't reacting, and immediately stomps on Tartu again, saying that trash like him shouldn't even exist. He's not even fit to fight. He should have just stayed in his territory, eating and living like the miserable coward he is instead of being selfish. As he keeps stomping, Kratos starts begging, pleading for Kimchi to forgive all of them. If that guy, level 9,999, were to go on the offensive, he'd wipe out every single demon. But that's when Kimchi says, "I know who you are. You're the demon lord, Kratos, right?" Kratos realizes that, yeah, looks like he's about to be the first to die. The rest of the troops nearby heard that demon lord comment. They're all trying to eavesdrop on the conversation, even if they're not standing close enough to catch everything. Kratos turns and asks, "Is that supposed to be some kind of system name, Kratos?" But Kimchi doesn't even know what a computer is. He just says he used that name as final confirmation and he's completely sure now. In that moment, our guy's eyes are trembling. He knows there's no way he's getting out of this alive. His only choice now is to act like this. He charges forward, slaps his hands to the ground, and slams his horn into the dirt. All the demons are startled to see the demon lord doing a full-on handstand butt up in the air. Kimchi's just standing there, totally confused. The demons start whispering, wondering if this is some special demon lord technique, or maybe some sort of threat stance. Kimchi asks what the hell he thinks he's doing, and Kratos says this is the grand reverence. It's the supreme act of gratitude, loyalty, dedication, basically every positive intention packed into one gesture. He's showing he has absolutely no desire to invade the human realm. That snake-looking subordinate acted completely on his own without any orders. That's why he came all this way to stop him. Kimchi coldly replies that he doesn't trust a demon's words, but Kratos keeps dragging his horn along the ground, saying he'll keep asking for forgiveness until Kimchi believes him. The demons are watching, wondering if this is some kind of intimidation tactic, like a bull about to charge. And Kratos is thinking, this is absolutely humiliating. But if he doesn't do this, all the demons will die. And as their leader, he has to protect them. A memory flashes in his mind. He sees his father kneeling while someone, probably a customer, yells at him. The boss says it's pathetic. He drops to his knees just because someone told him to. His father just keeps apologizing, saying it won't happen again. Back then, young Jankiel didn't understand why his dad acted like that. But now he gets it. Sometimes, for the sake of others, you have to accept humiliation. He keeps slamming his horn into the ground. Meanwhile, Kimchi is thinking, it's useless, Kratos. I exist to destroy you. I'm going to kill you now and put all demons to rest. He raises his scepter, but even then, Kratos keeps knocking his head to the floor. That's when Kimchi notices something. This guy, he slams his head into the ground 10 times, rests a moment, then does it again. There's a weird rhythm to it, something oddly familiar. He remembers that in a past life, before stepping into traps, he'd count to 10 and jump. Before any move that needed a precise timing, he'd always count to 10 and then act. Kratos is still down there, begging for forgiveness, overflowing with regret. Kimchi can tell, these words, this way of speaking, it's completely different from the real demon lord. And now he's wondering, why is this guy doing this in front of him? He finally tells him to stop. Kratos stands up and Kimchi tells him to get lost, because he's about to be killed. Right away, Kratos smiles, slings the lizard guy over his shoulder and says he's truly grateful. He'll be thankful for the rest of his life. Then he shouts, ordering the entire 4th Region's army to retreat immediately. The snake dudes are all confused, not sure what's going on. But hey, if the demon lord gave the order, they follow it. They all turn around and start heading back. The army marches past Kimchi, who's just standing there with his eyes closed. But of course, Tartu can't help himself. He sees Kimchi turned away, calls him a worthless worm, and charges at him. He goes in for an attack. Kratos yells at him not to do it, but it's already too late. With just a flick of his arm, Kimchi slices him clean in half, slamming him into the wall like he was nothing more than a bug. Blood splatters and Kratos starts trembling as Kimchi turns and stares at him. He knows there's no excuse now, but Kimchi says he understands that it wasn't Kratos' will, it was that guy's decision. Then he turns around and says if he ever sees his horn again in human territory, he better know that will be the end of him. Woo, that was close. There was no way he'd have survived against a level 9999. Next chapter opens with Gavier and Bloig asking what happened to Lord Kimchi. He simply replies, there was a fight. That's when Wolko shows up and asks if he's really the legendary old man Kimchi. He says everyone's completely shocked at how Kimchi wiped out those demons with a single move, made the whole crowd bow, and that's why they're all here, to apologize. Gavier hears that and says he knew Kimchi was strong, but not that strong. Wolkos then commands everyone to shout out and thank him. Watching all this, Kimchi thinks that finally on his 20th life he's broken free of this death cycle. For the first time, he chose mercy, even if technically he did kill 2 of them. He starts removing the outfit and everyone around him is clearly confused about what they're looking at. Meanwhile, back in the 4th region, Kratos is sprinting through the chaos, humans charging behind him. They had finally arrived, getting this whole group here was a nightmare. He tells everyone to get inside the castle and stay put. If anyone invades human territory again, they're all dead. The demons try to explain it was an order, but he cuts them off. He doesn't care. No excuses. They're to stay put and keep still. The only issue now is that Kratos has no shortcut back. No teleport, nothing. He's stuck walking. And the place is massive. He spots one of the abandoned wells and says that if it worked, that'd be a miracle. Unfortunately, he'd already checked a bunch of them and none of them were functioning. All he wanted was a quick teleport, but those things won't activate unless you're a paladin. But then, bless the system. It kicks in. Because of his encounter with the paladin, the abandoned well system is now unlocked. Instantly, he's pulled into the well. Now, every well he's ever visited is activated, and the system asks where he wants to go. He immediately says to the castle, and boom, he's being transported. Over at the ruins, Asura and Flute are searching for some undamaged farming tools. When suddenly, out of nowhere, a blue light flashes from the ground, and Kratos explodes onto the scene right in front of her. Poor girl faints on the spot, just drops. Out cold. Asura watches, and our guy finally shows up, only to throw up immediately. Then he throws himself forward to shield poor Flute, who was about to get drenched. Kratos wonders what just happened. He thought teleporting would be way more chill than this. As Flute rushes to help Asura, Kratos thinks even if it meant throwing up, it was totally worth it to skip the walk. Now he could finally get back to growing potatoes. Sometime later, he's looking up at the mountain. He says no matter how many times he sees it, the view is still incredible. But something's off. He can feel it. Something's wrong. He picks up one of the potatoes and says, wait a second. Starts tossing several others and says none of them have it. Zephyros asks what he's talking about. Kratos explains that none of the potatoes have sprouts. In other words, they're edible, but sterile, like old men who can't have kids. Back in his temporary castle, he says that no matter how huge these potatoes are, nothing new will grow from them. Hartok says it was probably some kind of unnatural change in the process that made the potatoes grow so big. Baal says they won't even be able to eat them. But Sergi cuts in to clarify. They can eat them, just not plant them. Kratos then says that either way, they couldn't rely on potatoes forever. They're extremely vulnerable to disease, and once one gets infected, the whole crop goes to waste. So regardless, they were going to have to start planting something else. Asura asks what could even grow in a place like this if not potatoes. Kratos answers nothing, but then adds that he knows a place filled with all kinds of seeds and the perfect conditions to grow countless things. Obviously, he's talking about human lands. Baal instantly gets hyped, shouting that invasion and looting were about to start all over again. But Sergi tells him to shut up. She knows full well that nobody hates war more than the Demon King himself. Kratos tells Zephyros to take charge of the construction efforts. Hartok would help out and oversee the farms. Meanwhile, he, Sergi, Baal, and Asherat would go to human territory. They'd sell potatoes and use the money to buy seeds. All he had to make sure of was that he didn't run into the like on this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers, activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.